the coin that silenced a revolution. It began with a single coin pressed into a trembling hand. Not a weapon, not a decree, but a small piece of metal that carried the power to quiet a nation on the edge of uprising. In that moment, the future did not turn on speeches or armies. It turned on currency. To understand why this coin mattered, we must return to a Europe restless with inequality and expectation. Cities swelled with workers demanding change. Crowds gathered in squares, fueled by hunger, anger, and the promise of reform. Governments feared revolt not because of ideology alone, but because revolutions were expensive. They disrupted trade, collapsed tax flows, and drained treasuries already stretched thin. Stability, leaders believed, could not be restored by force alone. It required something subtler. The first reveal begins inside the mint. As protests intensified, officials authorized the rapid release of a new coinage, lighter, more abundant, and easier to circulate than anything before it. Wages were paid swiftly. Debts were settled overnight. Markets reopened under the assurance that money would keep flowing. To the public, it felt like relief. To the state, it was a calculated intervention. The second beat followed quickly. The coin spread faster than pamphlets or slogans ever could. Merchants accepted it eagerly, grateful for liquidity after weeks of uncertainty. Workers spent it immediately, easing shortages and calming tempers. The streets grew quieter, not because demands vanished, but because survival took precedence over resistance. The revolution did not end. It paused. But beneath the calm, something deeper shifted. The new coin carried less intrinsic value than the old standard. Its worth depended entirely on trust in the issuing authority. And as people accepted it, they unknowingly traded leverage for convenience. The state had not crushed the uprising. It had postponed it by redefining value itself. What appeared to be generosity was, in truth, a strategy, a way to convert unrest into dependency, a way to silence momentum without answering its cause. And as the last protest banners were folded away, the coin continued circulating, quietly rewriting the balance between power and people. The pause bought by the coin was not accidental. It was engineered with precision. As the new currency flowed through markets, the state quietly adjusted the rules governing its use. Taxes could now be paid only in the new coin. Public contracts were settled exclusively in it. Older currency, once trusted and scarce, began to feel inconvenient, even suspicious. What had started as an emergency measure hardened into policy. As the reveal deepened, economists of the era noticed an unsettling pattern. Prices did not fall as promised. They rose slowly, almost invisibly. Bread cost a little more. Rent demanded a few extra coins. Wages increased in number, but not in substance. The people felt busier, wealthier in appearance, yet no closer to security. The revolution had not been defeated. It had been diluted. The conflict took shape when reform leaders realized what happened. The coin had absorbed the movement's energy. Protest funds lost purchasing power. Donations meant to sustain strikes evaporated before reaching their targets. Organizers who once rallied crowds now struggled to feed them. The very currency that calmed the streets had quietly weakened resistance. Inside government circles, confidence grew. Officials spoke openly of monetary stabilization, praising the coin for restoring order without bloodshed. They understood something dangerous and powerful. Control of currency could shape behavior more effectively than force. When money moved, people moved with it. But not everyone accepted the silence. A network of merchants and printers began hoarding the older coins, using them in private exchanges beyond the reach of official oversight. In back rooms and border towns, an alternative economy flickered into existence. There, value was measured by weight, not decree. Trust was personal, not institutional. The state sensed the threat immediately. New laws followed. Hoarding was labeled sabotage. Refusing the new coin became an act of defiance. Penalties escalated quickly, justified in the name of national recovery. The message was clear. Participation was no longer optional. The revolution had not ended. It had gone underground. And as the state tightened its grip on currency, it unknowingly planted the seeds of a deeper conflict. one that would not be fought in the streets, but in the hidden spaces where trust and value still resisted control. The underground economy grew in silence. While the streets appeared calm, back rooms hummed with quiet resistance. Artisans traded goods directly. Merchants weighed old coins by hand, testing metal against metal, rebuilding trust beyond the reach of official mint marks. What the state saw as stability was, in reality, a fragile surface stretched over widening cracks. The conflict intensified when authorities began tracing the disappearance of older currency. Audits revealed that significant quantities had vanished from circulation. Officials accused foreign agents, smugglers, and agitators. Raids followed. Workshops were shut down. Printing presses were seized. Each crackdown confirmed what many already suspected. The state feared what it could not price, regulate, or observe. Meanwhile, the new coin continued its quiet transformation of society. Savings lost meaning as value slipped week by week. Long-term planning became impossible. Families learned to spend immediately rather than preserve for future. The economy grew faster, louder, more frantic, yet less stable with each passing month. Momentum replaced security. Motion replaced progress. Revolutionary leaders faced an impossible choice. Open resistance meant starvation for their supporters, now paid in currency that evaporated under pressure. Silence meant surrender. Some chose exile. Others chose compromise. A few vanished entirely, absorbed into machinery they once opposed. The movement fragmented, its unity dissolved not by defeat, but by liquidity. The buildup reached its peak when a massive public works program was announced, funded entirely by the new coin. Roads, monuments, and grand civic halls rose quickly, employing thousands. To the public, it looked like renewal. To critics, it was a conversion of unrest into labor, energy redirected away from dissent and into construction. The state was not silencing the revolution. It was repurposing it. Yet beneath the scaffolding and celebration, pressure mounted. The underground economy began to influence border trade. Foreign merchants demanded payment in older standards or refused contracts altogether. The nation's isolation grew quietly, invisibly, masked by domestic activity. And in the halls of power, a new fear emerged. The coin had done its job too well. It had silenced voices, reshaped behavior, and delayed collapse. But it had also detached value from reality. The state now faced a truth it could not min away. A revolution delayed is not a revolution ended. It is a revolution waiting. The reckoning arrived quietly, without banners or barricades. It came as a realization shared almost simultaneously across markets, workshops, and households. The coin no longer meant what it once did. People still accepted it, still spent it, still depended on it, but they no longer believed in it. And belief, once lost, cannot be legislated back into existence. The climax unfolded when foreign creditors finally withdrew recognition of the coin altogether. Trade contracts were suspended. Exchange rates collapsed overnight. Goods that once flowed freely across borders stalled at customs posts, rejected not for quality, but for payment. The nation discovered that while the coin had silenced its own streets, it had isolated the country from the wider world. Inside the capital, emergency councils convened as the numbers turned unforgiving. Inflation surged beyond control. The public works projects that once symbolized renewal became burdens, consuming resources without generating real value. Workers demanded compensation in older standards. Merchants closed shops rather than sell at a loss. The illusion of calm gave way to a sharper, more dangerous tension than before. The state faced the truth at last. By using currency to postpone reform, it had traded short-term order for long-term instability. The revolution it had silenced now returned in another form, not as crowds, but as collapse. Systems failed. Promises unraveled. Authority weakened not through confrontation, but through exhaustion. The resolution did not come through force or further manipulation. It came through concession. The government announced a full monetary restructuring, restoring value-backed currency and reopening negotiations with reform leaders it had once tried to outspend. The streets filled again, not with riots, but with cautious assembly. People spoke, debated, demanded, and listened. The silence had ended. History would remember the coin not as a savior, but as a pause, a moment when money was used to delay change rather than confront it, and a lesson endured far beyond that nation's borders. Currency can calm a revolution, but it cannot resolve one. Subscribe to join the journey. The coin